起きてレイヨで携帯忘れて乗り遅れたどこの窓に映る人生
Oh, hi, Omino, Reiwa, Trat here, and welcome to Trat's Reviews. Today I'll be reviewing the first generation of Genshiken. Here's a short little explanation of why I just called it that. So, the first season of Genshiken came out a couple of years ago, and then the company that made Genshiken also had a little mini-series inside of Genshiken that you see every once in a while that the folks are watching on TV, and then that show actually picked up enough interest so that they made a season of anime for that. So then they made a second season of Genshiken, but it wasn't really for Genshiken, but for the series inside of the series. But because of the fact that they needed material for the second season of Genshiken, they made 3 OVA episodes to make a total of 15 episodes for Genshiken. Here's how it gets confusing. So recently they just started coming out with a second season, Genshiken's second season, and essentially it's stuff going on after Genshiken had already happened. So in my opinion, I'm going to call that Genshiken second gen, and I'm going to consider this Genshiken first gen, because even though they're connected, they're kind of different and they approach things in a slightly different fashion. Explanations. So yeah, now in the first gen of Genshiken, the main plot is that you have a group of college otaku and them doing whatever they do. Yeah. That sounds boring, but it's actually pretty entertaining. It was actually pretty fun. And I also have just started watching second gen, or at least I'm gonna call it second gen. I also did start watching the second gen, and it's also entertaining, but the series isn't finished yet, so when the second season's... Okay, so when the second gen is finished, I'll do a second part of review for that, because in my opinion, it's kind of similar to like comparing Neon Genesis Evangelion to Neon Genesis Evangelion movie remakes. Similar but different things, especially the ending. Speaking about endings, so as I said previously, the two things I like to see in a series are character development and the ending. Yes, there wasn't really character development. I mean, there kind of was, but it wasn't major or groundbreaking. But in the setting it worked, so I'm not going to fault it that. As for the ending, as I just said, they made a second gen, and the ending was just kind of meh after the OVAs, because they were just kind of stuck on there just because. I mean, they were entertaining nonetheless, but yeah. So Genshiken, as I said, looks at like college otakus, and most of them are male, but there are a few females, and they kind of look at how the otaku people in general are viewed, as well as just generic how they get along and whatnot. Within otakus, I would count myself as low-leveled. Like, let's consider we have this hierarchy of otaku, and I'd probably be down here, because while I do enjoy watching anime and reading manga and playing things made from Japan, I love me my JRPGs, I haven't really bought a whole lot, to be quite honest. I haven't. That might be a fault of mine, but I haven't really bought a whole lot. I don't have action figures, I don't have posters. Well, I have a few posters, but those are for Pokemon games, and those came with the guidebooks I got for the Pokemon games. But I don't think that counts, because it's for the games, not the anime. But I'm kind of degrading myself here. I don't like that. But, I mean, like, you have people like me who are anime fans, and I would personally consider myself like low level as a result. Then you have people the next step up who I'm gonna just classify as like the collectors, and they go to all the cons, and they have all the action figures, and they have all the DVDs and all the rest of that jazz. And then you have cosplayers, and you have people who are into doujinshi and actually have art skills that I don't have. Stick figures. In case you're interested, the best I can do is stick figures. Don't ask me to make anything. Please, don't. And then you have gaming otakus, which, once again, kind of am, kind of not. Like, I love me, as I said, I love RPG, I love my JRPGs, I love RPGs in general. I can do a few platformers and a few FPSs here and there, but as a whole, it's mostly RPGs. So I am kind of dedicated to my genre. But the example they use in Genshiken is like fighting games. One of the characters is like a god at, we'll say, Street Fighter 3, because I don't recall what it was actually called. Failure on my part. Yes. I mean, like, you have all these different kinds of otaku, and if you have no clue what I'm talking about at all, and that's probably because you aren't aware of, like, Japanese culture and whatnot, you might be missing out a little bit, but, like, Japanese otaku, okay, so, like, here's the problem, is that it's really kind of hard to define what an otaku is because it hasn't really been defined yet. Like, because over in Japan, okay, so from my limited knowledge of Japanese, otaku is a generic term for a guy slash person, but in the cultural sense, it's also kind of like nerdy, geeky, sometimes questionable male characters. So, I did enjoy Genshiken because I kind of looked at that, and there were also a couple of non-otaku characters, which are there to kind of, I don't want to say be the opposites, to kind of like make comparisons, because one of the main characters has a girlfriend who isn't an otaku, and so one of the things that they look at throughout the series is like dating and whatnot. If you're someone who is an otaku and you're dating someone who's not an otaku, they're not gonna get half the stuff you say. Trust me, I know this from personal experience. Half those comments I made to my girlfriends just went, phew. But I was expecting that. Wasn't that big a deal. Conversely, if you are someone who is not an otaku and is dating an otaku, then you're gonna have to know right off the bat that there's some stuff that isn't gonna make any sense. And you're also gonna have to work out your relationship as a result. So in my personal opinion, that part was kind of cool. But I already knew that stuff. Meh. Pluses, minus, I mean, they had like minor minuses and minor pluses, so overall it kind of balanced out. As for, I did enjoy the series, as I said. It was lots of fun, and it's really short. It's only 15 episodes long, so that's 15 divided by 3 is 5. I mean, it's 5 hours of anime, and then you're done with the first gen, not the second gen, first gen. You'll be done with the first gen. Oh, I am gonna have to make a quick side note. It took me most of the first episode of the OVA, of the first OVA, to get used to an art style change because a couple of years had passed and so they used a different art style. Now, I personally preferred the first season's art style over the second season's art style, but to each their own. I didn't get to make any calls. So as a heads up for that, there is a slight art change when you get to episode 13, 14, 15. I would personally give it my stamp of 8 out of 10 with reservations. If you are not someone who is into anime in the first place, and you are not someone who is considered a nerd slash geek slash otaku, depending on where you are from or known by, then I would not advise watching it so much in the sense that you might not get everything. Oh, something else. English dub versus English sub, or at least in original Japanese. There is an English dub, and I didn't have issues watching it. There weren't any blaringly questionable or obnoxious voices, in my opinion. So, I didn't finish it in the sub, like in actual Japanese. I didn't finish watching it in Japanese, because I felt that the English dub was fine enough. So congrats to those guys. Yeah, so if you happen to be a nerd slash geek slash otaku, then this series will be entertaining to watch. It'll be entertaining to watch. And if you aren't, then you might not want to watch this one yet, because it's not your standard typical anime. It's definitely different. So yeah, that's the thing. Until next time, guys. Jana.